Welcome to the Empowered Homes podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to be a resource to connect church and home by growing strong families.
Hey, this is Bobby. On today's episode, we have two amazing children's pastors. Maggie and Leslie are on the show. We're talking Advent. Advent is a season for us to prepare our hearts for Christmas. And we're going to talk about some different options and some different things and how not to beat yourself up if you miss a day. It's a great episode where we talk candidly about all these things and so much more about Christmas. But really cool on top of this podcast, on empoweredhomes.org, we have some great Advent resources for you to start this Christmas season. There's some resources for preschoolers, there's some resources for kids, and there's also some personal growth resources for you and your older students to go through and read through and prepare your heart for Christmas. You can find all of this on empoweredhomes.org. Maggie and Leslie, welcome.
Thank you.
We'll start with Maggie. Maggie, tell if no one's ever heard your name, if they're listening, like who is this person? Tell us about yourself, and then I'll add a question. We'll say your favorite Christmas tradition.
Oh, okay.
Because today we are talking Christmas.
Yes. Well, that is a great question because one of the most important things you need to know about myself is that I love traditions. And I drive my friends and family crazy and say if we do something once, then it has then become a tradition in my eyes.
That's awesome.
Which some of them don't love as much as I do.
We do a lot of repeats.
That's right. Yes. They have to be careful about what they do with me.
That's awesome.
So one, I am the campus children's minister at the North Katy campus. And one of my favorite Christmas traditions growing up was we would host a cookie decorating party for our neighborhood. And so around Christmas time, my mom would spend a good couple weeks baking all sorts of cookies, sticking them in the freezer, making icings, buying all these different decorations. We would do gingerbread houses and all sorts of different types and shapes of cookies, and all of the neighborhood families would come over and we would decorate cookies together, and they would leave with these plates of very technicolored, bright cookies that tasted great and maybe didn't look quite as great.
Yeah, but that's awesome.
Yeah,
so
it was so fun.
Your mom led the charge on that, and then neighborhood kids.
Yes.
Oh, that's so fun.
She loves to bake, and so it was a really fun way for her to get to do that, and a fun way for us to get to decorate a bunch of cookies.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great tradition. All right, Miss Leslie.
Well, I want to glom onto that tradition because my favorite food is frosted sugar cookies.
You should have come over.
I was not invited. I'm a little sad. Maybe that'll be a new tradition this year. So my kids are grown, where they're 20 and 23, and the oldest one's married, and so traditions are in a state of flux right now. But I think my very favorite one is we do a caroling party every year. So we used to do it a week before Christmas, but now we have to do it right around Christmas when my daughter's in town because she doesn't want to miss out on it. So we just have everybody we know over, and then we carol around the neighborhood and then come back for either hot chocolate or iced tea, depending on what Texas has for us in weather, and lots of cookies and great fun. We've discovered along the years that as your kids grow older, you have to not just invite their friends, you have to bring people with little children, because when you just carol with teenagers, it's a little uncomfortable. Nobody wants to be at the front. So we invite all of our little friends over to come caroling with us.
That's so fun. That's awesome. Well, today we're talking Christmas, and specifically with you guys, I wanted to talk about Advent. Advent, in most church circles, when you say the word Advent, they understand it. But for those who are like, man, I've never heard that word. What is Advent? Let's start there. Like, what in the world is it?
Yeah, Advent is a season of preparing for Christmas. And so it's really just a focus on getting our hearts ready to celebrate the coming of Jesus and the birth of Jesus on Christmas Day.
Yeah. And so it's not anything, special, or it is sacred. It can be sacred, but a lot of times we hear a big word like that and we're like, oh man, that's so churchy, or that's kind of out there. But the reality, it's in the simplest form. It's just preparing our hearts for Christmas. And so one of the greatest things we can do is, in our attempts, most Christian parents, we want Christmas to be centered on Jesus, on Christ.
Right.
And there's so many different things about the war on Christmas, and I don't want to get into that, but just as Christian parents, how we can use Christmas as a holiday, but also as just a way to disciple our kids. And you guys do some incredible stuff to help our parents lead through Advent and preparing for Christmas. Let's talk about what y'all do and why.
Well, every year we do something a little bit different so that it doesn't get stale and kids are looking forward to it. One year we might do, for instance, this year we're doing conversations, and it's just reading scripture with your family and then a discussion about something to keep us focused on Jesus. And it doesn't have to be super complex or very deep theological. It's just something to keep us reminded that Jesus is the reason that we're celebrating Christmas.
Yeah. And so those conversations, is there one every day?
This year, we have one every day. So it's just a card. You can throw them on your kitchen table, in your car, wherever you're going to have time to be with your family to have those discussions. Other times we've done like an Advent wreath where we've given everybody the candles and the discussion and the scripture to read every week.
Yeah, as you go. So keeping it practical, keeping it doable, I would say. I think that's one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important parts of when you're looking at what to choose for your family in Advent or any other, time of spiritual leading with your kids. You want to choose something that's going to work for your family and that's going to be practical, because you don't want to choose something super complicated that looks amazing and then, get a few days into it and be discouraged and give up.
Yeah.
Well, it's important to remind parents, too, that there's no wrong way to do it. If you miss some days, it's no big deal. You're going to just start back in on the next day and reroute back to Jesus, because it's such a busy season. Oh,
that's so good. Because, for me, thinking about all the times we've done stuff with our kids, we miss a few days and it's like, well, we're done with that,
Yep.
And so many parents are like, well, we failed, we're done. And the reality, you're going to fail. You're going to miss days. There's going to be times where you get home super late and your kids ask, we forgot to do our thing. And you go, just get to bed. We'll do it tomorrow. We'll do 2 tomorrow. And then we don't do 2 tomorrow.
Right.
And I think that's the one thing to make it clear for parents that there's no wrong way. That's such a powerful, empowering phrase. We all want to do stuff, but then we find ourselves getting closer to Christmas and then busy and all that, and we're not doing anything.
And there's no need to catch up.
Yeah.
You've missed a few days, blow those off, move on with the next day, and keep your focus.
So we're going to say it right here. If you miss a day, you have permission not to catch up.
Yep.
That's awesome. One of the things we do for our kids that our kids love, we spent some money several years ago and bought this huge wooden box that it has a metal back of a manger scene. And so there's 24 boxes. How many days? 24?
Some have 24,
25.
some have 25.
Just depends. So there's boxes that the kids open, and there's a magnet in each box.
Oh, cool.
And the magnets all at the end create the manger scene or the nativity scene. The first few days are all sheep. There's 6 sheep and some camels, and then you start getting the wise men, then you start getting and then the last day is baby Jesus. Our kids love that thing. And there's times where we add, like you're saying with the conversations of having a scripture that we read. Now that my kids can read okay, they're still struggling, but let them read. And so, but every single day, no matter what, we don't miss the box. And if we do miss it, we can't not put the magnet on.
Exactly.
So,
you still got to get the people out.
You still got to get the little magnet out. And so, that gives me freedom to know, okay, if I don't do the scripture or if I don't do whatever, like not to just beat myself up as a parent, but just to do something. I think that's the ultimate goal with our kids, because it's such a great opportunity and low-hanging fruit, if you will, for us to disciple our kids and keep Christmas about Jesus. So what are some other things that we've done here at Kingsland?
Well, one year we did a kindness calendar, and we realized we did overwhelm some parents. We had like a good deed they could do every day, and we should have made it more clear, you don't have to do all of them, but try and do some good deeds. We've done where every time you see one of your kids doing something nice, you put some money in this little pouch, and we called it the shepherd's pouch, and you collect it all month. And then at Christmas, your family decided where you were going to give all that money.
Oh, that's
so to
awesome.
encourage kids to do sweet, kind deeds for people.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite ones that we've done over the years, we had the families look up Old Testament prophecies, and then on the same day they would look up the New Testament fulfillments of those prophecies. And I think that really helped kids understand that this was God's plan all along. And that we can see that throughout the entire Bible. And it's just a different way to look at Christmas than I think we do a lot of times.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And there's some great resources out there also. There's a book called The Donkey in the Living Room, and this one is The Giving Manger, and they're the same thing. It's focusing on a piece of the Nativity every day, and so it's something hands-on.
So, I mean, we give something strategic and personal with what's going on at Kingsland, but are you saying there's a bunch of other resources out there that you can go?
There are. Just, Google.com. Is that where you go? Google.com. I go to Amazon.
Amazon, yeah.
But there's a lot of resources. It's also a great time of year. We give out something to all our families, but we make double the amount we need, and we encourage our families to give one to a friend because, like you said, low-hanging fruit. Christmas, people are willing to talk about Jesus at Christmas, and that's a great time to connect with other families as well.
So you're saying we make enough for every family, but then we make another one and encourage them. Wow, I didn't know that.
We do that.
That's awesome. Yep. So encouraging them, just thinking practically, how many families or what percentage of our families are actually, would you say actually you get feedback that they're doing the Advent stuff that we give them?
I don't do numbers very well.
Yeah.
But a good percentage.
Yeah.
We think this is probably one of our most done activities that we give out.
It's just such a natural time of year to focus on Jesus. And so families really want to capture that, and they're looking for tools to do so. And so they're much more open, whether they go to church every Sunday or whether they've never stepped foot in a church. This is a time of year where they're naturally open to hearing about Jesus.
That's awesome.
And the world is trying so hard to keep us focused on the secular side of Christmas that parents are really hungry for a way to bring Jesus back in and become the center.
Yeah, and that's the heart of what we want to accomplish with Advent is making Jesus the center of all of this. And it's really preparing our hearts for Christmas. One caveat or sidebar that just I want to talk about is we want to do these for our kids and for parents. A lot of times it's easy for us to say, okay, we're going to do an Advent calendar or we're going to do these conversations or whatever it is for our kids. But the reality is, as parents, we need to be taking care of our heart and preparing our heart for Advent. And so there's some incredible resources for adults that we can go through the prophecies. That's great for kids. There's also some great resources for adults to go even deeper with that. And for me personally, I found that during Christmas season, when I'm actively taking care of my heart, then I'm better at pouring into my kids. And so for the parents listening, I know there's Christmas parties you're dealing with and calendars, and then when the kids get out of school, you just want to pull your hair out. I get that there's a whole lot, and you're like, when do I have time? I promise you, if you make time, it's just going to make Christmas and that day even more special for your kids. And so definitely that's a huge part of this to impact and to go after that. But as we continue with Christmas, we want to make it clear too, we have the resources that you mentioned that we're doing here at Kingsland. Those are going to be on our resource portal for the listeners listening right now on empoweredhomes.org. we will have these available for anybody that's listening to use and to go through, and we're excited about that. Any tips for those who want to download this and use it?
I would just encourage progress over perfection.
Oh, that's
so
good.
don't focus on checking off every single day. Just make it a priority. I think that it's important to make things that we deem important priorities and set aside time for that, but also have grace for ourselves when we're not able to achieve it every single day.
Exactly. And just remembering that conversations can happen anywhere. It doesn't have to be a designated hour in the evening to sit down and everybody behave. It can be while you're swinging out in the backyard or in the car, in the carpool line, or at dinner.
And the beauty of if you do download it, you can print these at home and use them, or they're on your phone.
Right.
And so if you're at a doctor's appointment with your kid sitting there killing time, pull it up and go through this conversation as you go, or whatever time. Not while you're driving. That'd be, maybe.
Carpool.
Read
you're
them while you're
sitting in
driving.
carpool.
Or if you're handing your phone to your kids, let them read it.
There you go.
Yeah, so you're not on your phone. Yeah, don't text and drive. My son got on to me the other day for that. I was trying to text mom. But anyways, so keeping the focus of Christ through Christmas. Let's end by just kind of talking to the parents who may see this or hear this and they want to download and they're planning to add this to it. But what are some other things we can do, not just an Advent calendar, if you will, but what are some other things we can do around the house or throughout our day to keep Christ focused through the holidays? What are some other things?
I think one of the easiest is Christmas music. I understand it's already started. It doesn't start at my house till the day after Thanksgiving. But Christmas music is telling the story of Jesus, and to stop while you're listening to those songs and discuss them and talk about the meaning. There's, some crazy words in there, in excelsis Deo. I mean, look up the meanings of those words, and you can have some deep conversations just in the car while you're listening to Christmas music.
Music's huge. And, don't get me wrong, I love me some Mariah Carey.
Well, yeah.
And that's okay. But, keeping those Christ focus. I'm not saying get rid of all that, the secular Christmas music, because those are fun and the kids, my kids love them. But being intentional, that's good word for us to think about.
Well, you can even have a discussion about the songs, about when you're listening. If you're listening to Rudolph, say, all right, is that a Christmas song that has anything to do with Jesus, or is it just a fun Christmas song?
Yeah.
It's a great way for kids to be focused in on trying to decide
that's good.
one way or the other.
That's real good. All right, what else? What are some other things parents can do?
Yeah, I think it's just, looking at the traditions that you already have and figuring out how to point them towards Christ rather than creating something new all the time. So your decorations, have a nativity scene out there. That's pretty basic, but, have a conversation with your kids about why we put this out and what the different pieces mean and, the different parts of that story and how they all played a part in, our Savior's birth.
Yeah. That's good.
Well, we spent a lot of time focusing on our Christmas list and what we want, and we could switch that focus to what are we going to give? Help your kids focus on some giving. Do ding dong ditch somebody and put craft supplies on their front porch and run, or food to the food bank, and make sure your kids are involved in all of those so they know what you're doing.
That's awesome. That's really good. And one of our favorite Christmas traditions is movies, holiday movies. We love holiday movies. Our kids, they'll watch Home Alone in July. They love that movie.
Elf is year round, right?
Yes.
That's a year round movie.
Yes. And those movies, Home Alone and Elf, those are incredible. But there's some also really great Christ-centered movies that we can point to let our kids watch and then have conversations about. And those are definitely ways we can keep Christ in Christmas. And then, obviously being a part of services at church. There's most places, if you're listening, if your church doesn't have a Christmas Eve service, there's probably one in your town or city. Not that Christmas Eve services are, it depends. It was never a tradition for me, but man, I love it now. Growing up, we never went to Christmas Eve services, but now I love that night, and it's a great opportunity for us. So all of these things, you can find more information on empoweredhomes.org. And thank you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Any final words for parents?
Hey, another one just that's so easy is a birthday cake on Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Sing happy
Missed that
birthday
one.
to Jesus. Just that constant reminder that why we are celebrating.
Yep. Happy birthday, Jesus. My kids love the birthday cake. We don't do it on Jesus's birthday. We do it the week before, and I don't know why, but yeah.
Got to prepare for his birthday.
It's a tradition.
Yes, it's just a tradition, but that's good. Thank you all so much. Again, if you're listening and you want more Christmas resources for your family, go to empoweredhomes.org.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks for listening to the Empowered Homes podcast. For more content and information to connect church and home, please visit empoweredhomes.org.